Hey guys, this video is going to be talking about a fish cycle. That's cycling your tank with fish in it. Um, this is the most common way of cycling for beginners because it's really common for people to go buy a fish tank, set it up, buy a bunch of fish, and assume all is right with the world. But it's not quite that simple. Um, with a fish cycle, there's a high risk of losing a few of your fish to new tank syndrome. Most of you probably will lose some of your fish. Um, it's just the way it is. Fish are very fragile and very sensitive, and it's really challenging to balance everything and get it right, especially early on in the process. Once your tank's well established, it gets much easier, and you can kind of relax into a pattern that's easy and maintainable and reasonable. But early on, they're very sensitive, they're very fragile, so expect that you may lose some, and you probably will, especially if you're doing this method of cycling. This method of cycling is basically identical to the fish-less cycle that I talked about in the video that I posted today as well, except that instead of adding straight ammonia to the tank, you're going to add a few fish, not a lot. I would say add around 10% of your max population to start out. So depending on the size of your tank, this, it might be 2 fish, it might be 6 fish, but around 10% of where you expect your tank to max out. If you're doing a community tank and you've got, a small 10-gallon tank, 1 or 2 fish is probably where you're going to start at. If you've got a 60-gallon tank and you expect to have maybe 30 fish in there eventually, then you're going to start out with 5 to 6, 7 fish maybe. So make a good selection for the type of fish for how many you have room for initially. Don't get a schooling fish if you only have room to put 2 in, because schooling fish need a school. So be mindful of that. What you're going to do is set up your whole tank, get it all set up with decorations, get it set up with treated water, get your filter set up, your heater set up, all that stuff. Let it sit for about 2 days with no animals in it. You need to let the heater and the temperature and everything kind of balance out before you introduce fish. Give it at least a day or two. Make sure everything's stable. Make sure the temperature's right. Make sure your water's well treated when you fill it. Make sure the decorations are how you want it. All that stuff. Then go get your first few fish. Follow around the 10% rule. Put them in. Then you're going to wait for them to cycle. It's going to take 3 to 8 weeks. Most people it happens with around 4 or 5 weeks, but it could take as many as 8, could be as quick as 2 or 3. Most people around 4 or 5. What you want to be doing is testing your water with a test kit regularly, at least every 2 or 3 days, to check your water levels. Check your ammonia and your nitrite and your nitrate to make sure they don't reach dangerous levels. Do a water change anytime their levels get too high. Once your ammonia and your nitrite both read 0 and your nitrate reads that it has some in there, then you know that your cycle has progressed through all 3 of those stages and you're safe to start adding more fish. You want to do that gradually. I would increase my population at first to about 25% of max. Let that go for a week or 2. Keep checking your levels, make sure they're not getting dangerous. Then add another 25%, and so on. Every week or 2, you can add on fish until you're fully stocked at your nice, healthy, safe level. This way you avoid spiking. As you add more fish, each time you add fish, you need to wait for the bacteria to catch up to the new levels. So you add some fish, they're producing more ammonia than they were before. The bacteria that are already there can't consume it all at once, so they need to gradually increase their population of bacteria. So you got to be gradual. And that's pretty much it. Really, really common to lose fish in the first 1 or 2 batches using this method because beginners often have spikes. It's unavoidable that you're going to have a couple spikes here and there. But be attentive. If you're really, really careful with your testing and you're quick to do a water change when it's needed, then you'll be fine. If you lose a couple fish, it may happen. Try to pick stuff that's really, really rugged to begin with. Guppies tend to be pretty lenient. Female betta fish are really good in a community tank. They're pretty forgiving. Other fish, just not all fish are as delicate as some. So talk to your pet store and get some good recommendations. And be gradual and be very patient. It's gonna take you, depending on the size of your tank, you'll probably spend a couple months before it's fully stocked and like ready for you to really enjoy. And that's just the way it is. So if you stock it too fast, they will die. You can't avoid it. There's nothing you can do about it. You got to be patient. Patience is the number one thing that people never seem to realize that you need when you're setting up a fish tank. You got to be patient. They're fragile and sensitive. It's just the way it is. Enjoy your tanks, guys. Bye.